bitter criticism yesterday. I heard that Zelensky is being defeated. What about Russia Today news? Is Russia Today back to YouTube, or is just my thinking here? Is Russia Today working online on YouTube? Well, this news says May 29, 2025, Russian and former Soviet Union, Russia, alleged threats to Kiev Russian negotiators' family, and quote unquote, outrageous, Kremlin says. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said investigators are working to find out where the messages to Vladimir Medinsky are coming from. Where? So we have a photograph of Vladimir Medinsky, who I really don't know who it is, but it's not the first time I heard about him. And it says, alleged threats being made against Russia's chief negotiator Vladimir Medinsky and his family are quote-unquote outrageous, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Thursday, noting that authorities are already working to determine their source. His remarks come after TV presenter Vladimir Solovyov recently stated that Medinsky, who led Russia's delegation at the peace talks with Ukraine in Istanbul earlier this month, was receiving death threats from the Ukrainian side. His family was also allegedly targeted. Peskov called the situation quote-unquote unprecedented and said that if investigators find that threats are coming from Ukraine, it will be quote-unquote utterly outrageous, particularly as Moscow has offered to hold another round of negotiations next Monday. Yeah, kind of. This is savagery, isn't it? I guess I don't really know what happened in Ukraine, but Ukraine, I will not say they have the right to do it, but at least it's logical. They definitely, some people want to fight back Russia. They want to be Western people. They want to be part of Europe. That's why they are fighting with all they can. Savagely, yeah, committing terrorism all together with this nomad people, the Tajiks and Ukrainian against Russia. That's for sure. According to Solovyov, the threats are coming from Ukrainian nationalists who have even targeted Medinsky's children. He claimed that the negotiator's family has received messages such as quote we know where your children are and we have a lot of explosive pack scooters. Oh, terrible. We know where your children are and we have a lot of explosive packet scooters. Several terrorist attacks involving electric scooters have taken place in the past, including the December 2024 murder of Igor Kirillov, the head of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical defense forces. Solovyov also recalled that, quote, there were cases when negotiators were threatened, and there were tragic cases, and they are well known, end quote. One such case could involve Ukrainian bankers Denis Kiriev, who was killed in March 2022, shortly after participating in early peace talks with Russia. Solovyov said that Medinsky had personally discussed the issue with Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, who was the head of Kiev's delegation in Istanbul. He reportedly insisted to Medinsky that the alleged threats are not coming from Ukrainian authorities. Following Solovyov's claims, the head of Russia's investigative committee, Alexander Bastrikin, ordered the opening of a criminal case to identify the persons involved in threatening Medinsky's family. Moscow and Kiev have been working on their own draft memorandums outlining a path towards a peaceful settlement. Earlier this month, the two sides met for the first time since peace negotiations collapsed in 2022. On Wednesday, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov proposed holding the next round of talks on Monday, June 2nd in Istanbul. Umerov has responded by stating that Kiev first expects to receive Moscow's draft memorandum so that the meeting is not quote-unquote empty. There's another one from the Minister of Defense. It says Russia Today, May 29. Home, Russia and former Soviet Union. Russian military hits Ukrainian commando headquarters, Minister of Defense. The target site may have housed foreign fighters, according to Moscow. They really hit it. Hits Ukrainian commando headquarters. Is a beautiful launch. I'm looking this. You cannot see very well actually, but anyway. Russian forces have carried out precision strike on a facility used by Ukrainian Special Operations Forces. The Defense Ministry in Moscow announced it Thursday. The target site located in Ukraine's Nikolaev region reportedly included a munitions depot, a vehicle hangar, and a command post, and a dormitory for commandos. The strike was carried out using Zheran-2 long-range drones and Iskander-M missiles, according to the ministry. Officials suggested that foreign nationals fighting for Kiev may have been killed in the attack. Footage released by the ministry and mapping details of the strike point to the location as Oshakov, a key port city near the junction of the Black Sea and the Dnieper-Bug estuary. The Dnieper River forms a natural dividing line between Russia and Ukrainian forces in the south. And there's another video by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Oshakov is reported to serve as a base for British-assisted naval drone operations, from which Ukraine has launched attacks using unnamed surface vessels against Russian targets in Crimea. Just south of the city lies the Kinburn Spit, a narrow strip of land connected to Russia's Kherson region. Ukrainian forces have attempted to seize the position several times, while Russian troops have used it to launch strikes on Ukrainian military infrastructure. In recent weeks, Ukrainian forces have ramped up long-range drone attacks inside Russian territory. Amid pressure from Washington for Kiev to engage in direct peace negotiations with Moscow, the Russian military has responded by targeting suspected drone assembly sites and other strategic installations. The strike on Oshakov appeared to be part of such nighttime operations. And that's it. There's another interesting one. News about economy, May 29. Home business news. Business, not economy. US dollar hits 2-year low against ruble. The Russian currency's rally has been fueled by rising oil prices and optimism regarding the Ukraine peace talks. Analysts say the Russian ruble soared to a 2-year high against the US dollar in forex trading on Thursday, supported by positive geopolitical developments and favorable conditions in global oil markets, according to analysts. The Russian currency, which has been strengthening for several months, traded below 78 rubles against the dollar on Thursday afternoon, its strongest level since mid-May 2023. Russia's announcement that it has drafted a peace memorandum and rising oil prices have contributed to the ruble's strength. Yevgeny Loktyukov of Pромsвязьбанк told the Business Daily RBK. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov proposed holding the next round of Ukraine peace negotiations in Istanbul on June 2nd. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump reiterated that he will not impose anti-Russian sanctions, expressing hope for a resolution to the conflict. Brent crude, the global benchmark for Russia's main export, rose 1.2% to 65.68 per barrel. $65 per barrel. The improved geopolitical backdrop and favorable oil market conditions should offset the typical month-end dip in foreign currency supplies following tax payments, Loktyukov said. Oil exporters typically convert foreign currency earnings into rubles at the end of each month in order to settle local obligations, providing support to the Russian currency. Additional support for the ruble comes from ample foreign exchange liquidity in the market and weak demand for foreign currency, according to Natalia Puruyeva, lead analyst and investment firm Tcifra Broker. Some analysts see potential for further gains, protecting the ruble could extend to 75 per dollar this month if geopolitical momentum persists. However, they have warned that the rally may be short-lived without tangible progress. Moscow and Washington have resumed high-level diplomatic engagement following U.S. President Donald Trump's return to the White House. He has repeatedly called for a swift resolution to the conflict and a reset in bilateral relations. Last week, he and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Zelensky, last week, I'm talking about Donald Trump. He has repeatedly called for a swift resolution to the conflict and reset the bilateral relations. Last week, he and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin held a 2.5-hour phone call, which both leaders described as productive. Earlier this month, Russian and Ukrainian negotiations met in Istanbul for the first direct talks since Kiev unilaterally withdrew from the peace process in 2022. As a result of the talks, the two sides conducted the largest prisoner swap to date, with each country releasing 1,000 individuals. And I have no news about Zelensky. Maybe I'm going to. There's a news that says Ukraine needed Western help to target Putin's helicopter. Putin's helicopter was targeted, but I guess he's fine. There's a feature analysis what the Russian generals are reading inside Moscow's closed-door military thinking. And this news says what the Russian Military Yearbook 2025 reveals about Moscow's war plan, defense priorities, and global outlook. Each year, deep inside Russia's opaque defense establishment, is opaque. Russia's opaque defense establishment, a select group of generals, security officials, and defense industry executives, receive a publication not meant for prying eyes. The quote-unquote Russian Military Yearbook 2025 is not a glossy annual or a public defense white paper. It is a strategic internal digest intended for those who shape and execute Russia's war plans, circulated among senior commanders, security agencies, and defense industrial directors. It provides rare insight into the mindset and priorities of a country at war. Russia Today offers an in-depth review of the yearbook's latest edition, a document meant to inform Russian decision makers, now brought into analytical focus for an international audience. Whether you are a defense analyst, a policy strategist, or a close observer of Russia's evolving military doctrine, this review offers a rare opportunity, a look behind the curtain of the Russian state's warfighting logic. There's a subtitle. New minister's vision for a modernized military. The quote-unquote Russian Military Yearbook 2025 opens with highlights from Defense Minister Andrei Belosov's keynote address at the expanded meeting of the Ministry of Defense Collegium, delivered on December 14, 2024. At that point, Belosov had been in office for 6 months, following his unexpected appointment in May 2024, when longtime Defense Chief Sergei Shoigu stepped down after a 12-year tenure. A civilian with a background in economic planning and government advisory roles, he brought with him no military credentials but a clear mandate to modernize. In his address, Belosov framed his early tenure as a response to mounting wartime challenges, outlining a managerial approach focused on efficiency, innovation, and human capital reform. As some analysts had forecast, Belosov emerged as a technocratic reformer, one focused on importing modern management systems and private sector technologies into the armed forces. Central to his message was the urgent need to streamline existing military processes and foster a culture of innovation, especially in cooperation with the civilian scientific community. Quote, and this is highlighted quote. In this context, the Russian armed forces must become more agile and open to innovation, including innovations from the civilian sector. Andrei Belosov, Minister of Defense of Russia. Just 1 second. This is a beautiful view here. Just 1 second. one more second. Coming back to the news. Quote, in this context, the Russian armed forces must become more agile and open to innovation, including innovations from the civilian sector. Andrei Besolov, Minister of Defense of Russia. But Besolov's ambitions go beyond technology and workflow. He also seeks to overhaul how the military attacks develops and restrains talent and retains talent. His agenda includes new educational initiatives designated to incorporate battlefield lessons from Ukraine, as well as efforts to enhance the social prestige of military service with improved benefits and professional development opportunities for servicemen and women. How the US strategies against Russia. Actually, how the US strategizes against Russia. The second major contribution in the yearbook comes from Dr. Alexei Podbereskin, a historian and the director of the Center for Military Political Studies at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations, MGIMO. His article examines long-standing U.S. strategic approaches to Russia, arguing that Washington has consistently favored internal destabilization over direct military confrontation. Podbereskin contends that this tactic, first honed during the Cold War, has been embraced by successive generations of American policymakers. From their perspective, undermining Russia from within has proven more reliable, less risky, and far more cost-effective than attempting to challenge it head-on in a controversial military conflict. Highlight quote. And I'm going to finish here. Quote, the current international environment is marked by a sharp escalation of tensions between nearly all its actors. Almost every nation has taken sides in the conflict between the quote-unquote collective West and the emerging centers of power. Alexei Podbereskin, MGIMO. And let me tell you this: Brazil is a tricky country because is in a bigger way controlled by the West. Brazil is a West post colony.